Hey. Welcome to a world of laughter, learning, and entertainment. Hello, YouTube friends. Join us as we unravel the mysteries surrounding Operculum gastropod. An operculum is a corneous or calcareous anatomical structure like a trapdoor that exists in many but not all groups of sea snails and freshwater snails, and also in a few groups of land snails, including the Helicinidae, Cyclophoridae, Aciculidae, Maizaniidae, Pomatiidae, etc. The operculum is attached to the upper surface of the foot, and in its most complete state, it serves as a sort of trapdoor to close the aperture of the shell when the soft parts of the animal are retracted. The shape of the operculum varies greatly from one family of gastropods to another. It is fairly often circular, or more or less oval in shape. In species where the operculum fits snugly, its outline corresponds exactly to the shape of the aperture of the shell, and it serves to seal the entrance of the shell. Many families have opercula that are reduced in size, and which are not capable of closing the shell aperture. Opercula have sometimes been modified. In the Stromidae, the operculum is claw-shaped and is used to push into the substrate in a leaping form of locomotion. Virtually all pulmonate snails are anoperculate, that is, they do not have an operculum, with the exception of the Amphiboloida. However, some terrestrial pulmonate species are capable of secreting an epiphragm, a temporary structure that can in some cases serve some of the same functions as an operculum. The epiphragm may be distinguished from the true operculum by its homogeneity and want of growth marks. In ammonites, extinct shelled cephalopods, a calcareous structure known as the aptiches plural aptici existed. When these were first described, they were thought to be valves of a bivalve species. Then for many years after that they were considered to be a form of paired or single operculum-like structures belonging to ammonites. More recently, the aptiches or paired aptici have been hypothesized to be a jaw apparatus of ammonites. Now, let's delve into the intricacies of functions and explore its various aspects. Perhaps the most essential function of the operculum in gastropods is to allow snails to resist drying out or desiccation. This is very important in intertidal marine snails during low tide, and this also enables operculate freshwater and land snails to survive periods of drought and dry weather. In those marine species where the operculum completely seals the shell, it can also serve as a protection against predators when the snail body is retracted. Welcome to the next segment, where we explore anatomy and its significance in our journey. In life, the operculum is attached at the ending of the columnar muscle with an opercular disc dorsally to the upper surface of the posterior part of the foot. However, in buccinum, a layer of long cylindrical epithelial cells, with mostly distinct nuclei, and long divided processes enter between the muscular fibers. The operculum, a cuticular development of these cells, is composed, as may be seen in the corneous opercula of Murex, Purpura, Triton, of very thin superimposed layers. The cylindrical cells are attached with their head to the lowermost layer. The operculum grows in size as the shell grows, such that the operculum remains in proportion to the apertural size. In many species, when the animal is active and crawling, part of the underside of the shell rests on the outer surface of the operculum. In many species of marine-shelled snails which live subidally, the operculum is greatly reduced in size, and no longer serves to seal the shell entrance. In a large number of families it has been eliminated completely. In species of conchs, the operculum is elongated and sickle-shaped, and is used to dig into the sand to enable the conch to perform a leaping type of locomotion. The structure of the operculum can be described as follows: concentric. The nucleus is central or subcentral as in Lithoglifus and Ampullaria, and in other the nucleus is near the parietal margin of the shell. Imbricate, or lamellar, when it grows only on one side, and the nucleus is marginal, as in Purpura, Xenophora, and Paludomus. Claw-shaped, or unguiculate, with the nucleus apical or in front, as in Turbinella and Fusus. It is claw-shaped and serrated in Strombius spiral when it grows only on one edge, and revolves as it grows. It is always sinistral in dextral shells. Paucispiral or oligodurous, with few spirals as in Littorina. Subspiral or scarcely spiral, in multispiral or polydurous, having many closely spaced spirals as in Trochus, where they sometimes amount to 20. The number of turns which the operculum makes is not determined by the number of whorls in the shell, but by the curvature of the aperture, and the necessity that the operculum should revolve fast enough to fit it constantly. Articulated, when it has a projection, as in Narrator. Radiated is a modification of the articulated operculum in which the spiral is not so evident as in Navicella. Philopeludina martensi operculum. Example of a concentric operculum. Philopeludina martensi. Mastonia cumalensis operculum. Example of a polygyrous spiral with eccentric nucleus in the operculum of Mastonia cumalensis. Scale bar 205. Cremachinchus sihadrensis operculum. Example of an oligodurous spiral in Cremachinchus sihadrensis. Phylopecua coral reef Pliocene Cyprus. Fossil spiral opercula both sides from the Pliocene of Cyprus. In 1998, Checker and Jimenez proposed three types of opercula. Type 1, flexifluent spiral, mostly multispiral operculum. Its shape does not coincide with the aperture but fits by flexing into the aperture, predominantly present in gastropods. Type 2, rigifluent spiral, usually paucispiral operculum. Its shape fitting the aperture, present in gastropods, but predominating in gastropoda. Type 3, rigifluent concentric operculum, its shape fitting the aperture, predominant in higher notonucleations and exclusive in gastropods. There are two basic types of opercula in terms of their material composition. The most common kind of operculum is composed of a thin to rather thick corneous protein material, which is yellow to brownish in color and is usually somewhat translucent. This matter is supple when in its natural state but may become brittle when it is dried out. The operculum varies in shape, depending on the family of snails and the shape of the aperture of the shells. The other kind of operculum is restricted to a few families of gastropods, including the Turbinidae. This operculum structure has a corneous base with a heavy calcareous overlay. The calcareous surface in some genera has color or ornamentation of various kinds, including, for example, pustules and incised grooves. The different shapes of opercula can include ungulate, hoof-like, claw-like, or ovate. The type and shape of the operculum is used to help identify and classify related groups, genera of land operculates, and likewise some marine operculates. Moving ahead, let's uncover the hidden gems within human uses and discover their significance. The oldest known human depiction of an operculum, together with the shell of Charnia tritonis, is a seal made by the Minoan civilization. As incense material, opercula of certain gastropods, especially varieties from the Red Sea, have long served as an incense material in ancient Jewish tradition, as well as Arabian cultures. The operculum of conch species Strombius tricornis and Lambis truncata are most commonly used in regions near the Middle East. Opercula from these conches may be the onycha incense material which is described in the Book of Exodus. Operculum powder is also an important ingredient in Chinese and Japanese incense making. Here it is called Bixing Chinese, lit. Seashell fragrance, or cacao Japanese, lit. Shalama fragrance respectively. Incense producers in these countries use the operculum of many conches and other marine snails, including those found in Southeast Asia, South America, and East Africa. The opercula are traditionally treated with vinegar, alcohol, and water in order to remove any fishy smell. The clean opercula are then ground to a powder and used as a scent fixative, in a technique similar to that used in perfumes with certain plant resins. When burnt on its own, high-quality operculum reportedly smells of costume or other animal musks, while that of lower quality is reminiscent of burnt hair. In the upcoming section, we'll be dissecting as a gemstone or decorative object and exploring its implications in greater detail. The operculum of certain species of Turbinidae is sometimes used as a very inexpensive organic gemstone in rings, bracelets, amulets, and so on. These opercula are commonly known as cat's eye or more recently Shiva's eye. The turban snail Turbopathylatus is the species whose operculum is most renowned, although other turbo species are also used. The operculum has two sides of differing appearance. Either side or both may be displayed as jewelry or ornament. The internal side is flat and white, with a spiral suture line, while the external side is hemispherical, glossy, and variously colored and patterned. In the case of T. pathylatus, there is a prominent dark eye and sometimes a greenish area. Opercula are often used in northwest coast art of North America as detailing in masks, panels, and paddles. These objects are used to represent the teeth in masks, and are used as a decorative element in many of the objects which play an important part in the art and culture of northwest coast peoples, including dishes for food, bentwood boxes, and rattles. Friedrich Ratzel in The History of Mankind reported in 1896 that, in Oceania, chains and girdles composed of the colored opercula of certain shells were considered valuable ornaments. Brace yourself for a deep dive into as paperwhites as we explore its impact and relevance in our evolving narrative. The largest opercula of Turbomarmoritus have been used as paperwhites. Remember to follow me on social media for behind-the-scenes content and updates.